We are going to be looking at our product roadmap in some of our presentations today. So to properly set our expectations there, we need to review Salesforce's forward-looking statement slide. If you're unfamiliar with this slide, it urges Salesforce customers to base purchasing decisions only on currently available functionality at the time of purchase. Simple as that.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Marcus Torres. I'm focused on mobile product management, and although similarly named, I am unrelated to our gracious host, Mike. And so in today's world, we know connectivity is a problem. We're here in San Francisco, and yet I can guarantee you I can walk in places in this building and around the city where connectivity is a challenge. We want people to be able to work regardless of the internet or the connection to the internet. And so you see this in healthcare, you see this in your field service and your field sales teams. And so this is a key feature and a key just real platform actually that we're intending on delivering. So let's first talk about the evolution of offline, right? We've actually done offline for quite a while. We have evolved offline from Salesforce Classic, which was our first mobile application that we introduced. And we've really evolved that where we had a briefcase. And we had this briefcase and you'd configure exactly to the record of what you wanted offline. The challenge is a lot of you out there, you've decided to put everything in there. And that became a very big challenge for everyone. It became a challenge for our users, a challenge for our lovely admin community. It became a challenge for us. And after those billions and billions of records that we synced over time, we found that you were only using 0.4% of those ever. So we really decided this is a time to evolve it. And we are using Lightning, and Salesforce1 is kind of the caveat for that. And so in the spring release, you'll see what we call the reactive sync, where we're really just grabbing kind of what's recent to you. But what's really exciting is what's going to come after that in the summer 16 release when we hope to GA offline. And that will be a predictive sync where we're using data science and algorithms to really grab the relevant and key data that's specific to the user. So, and why is that necessary? Because users expect to be able to work. I take the BART train. Some people, are obviously flying. Some people are commuting in numerous ways. And we want to make sure that what they have is the seamless experience that they know, the flow, the screens, the objects that they're accustomed to working with the layouts and all of kind of the customizations and flow they expect, and the data that's critical for them to do their job. And so what does that really mean? What does offline really mean, right? So first we're going to automatically download that kind of predefined set of data. In the initial release, it's only going to be with the kind of reactive sync. It'll be just the 30 most recent records first, and that's for your first 5 what we call most frequently used objects, or maybe referred to as your smart scope. And so that smart scope is limited to those 5s, but we also grab the first 5 objects. But again, you'll be able to create and edit any kind of record type within those objects, at least up to the first 15 record types. If you have more than 15 record types, I would say you should probably reevaluate that strategy. We also are going to support tasks, so full task creation. I'll get to that in the caveats a little bit later. Notes for viewing, notes for edit, as Kayvon was saying earlier, will be coming by our summer release. And then still doing the 5 most recent dashboards. A good thing to know, though, is if you previously viewed anything in Salesforce1, you will still have that available regardless of if it's in your recent records or not. It's just going to be available for you no matter what, and we keep that. So what's unsupported offline, right? That's always the question. So quick actions, unfortunately, didn't make it into the spring release. Quick actions are kind of key to you creating a log a call or a task or essentially an activity in context of a record. Unfortunately, that's not available. We're just supporting full edit and full create in the initial spring rollout. Visual Force, never going to happen. If anyone's out there and you think Visual Force will ever be offline, I'm sorry, but it's not possible. It's just the way the technology is built. This is part of why we've built Lightning. It's part of why the future of our UI platform is Lightning. And we believe that we have provided and are going to provide a lot of great tools for you to be able to port things over eventually. And server-side operations, workflow, triggers, validation rules, Apex, all of that lives in the cloud, and that's where we want it to live. And so those will be unsupported offline. Now, moving on, pending uploads. I'm not going to walk through all of this. I'm actually going to show you. And so I actually want to go to the offline experience. For production reasons, I created a video that we're actually going to walk through here. And so I'm going to walk through that demo now. So here I'm on my Android device. I want to be clear, in Spring 16, offline is only coming to Android. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the roadmap. But in Spring 16, it's only Android, and so that's what I'm going to walk you through today. So I'm going to go ahead and open Salesforce1. I'm going to go to the left-hand navigation, and as I scroll down the left-hand navigation, you're going to see that there's two new areas, one called Pending Uploads, and then in Settings itself, which I guess is technically not new, there's an area called Offline Cache. If you want to make sure you're offline, go here and press Cache now. So I'm at Cache, and I've sped this up for TV time, basically goes through. It takes usually about 1 to 2 minutes, and you come back, and essentially now you can be offline. So now if I go to opportunities, you'll see that I go to airplane mode. I am now offline, and then there's a lovely indicator, or what we call a toast at the top, that says you're currently offline. That goes away after a few seconds, and then you just work like you always want to work. And whether you want to see standard objects, whether you want to see custom objects, all of that is really available for you. Anything that's under the More section, currently under Salesforce1, that is not going to be automatically cached for you, but if you recently viewed it, it will, obviously. Or if you ever viewed it in Salesforce1, it would be available. So here, I'm actually going to a contact, and Mr. John Amos here. And what I'm going to do is, I know I've talked to him recently. I'm going to go ahead and edit this contact offline. So I'm going to click on Actions. I'll press on Edit. And you can see it comes up. He recently changed his title from and took over all of global sales for the company. And so I simply edit the title, something that our field sales guys do every day. And when I save this, what you will notice is you're going to go back to Record Home, and on that Record Home you have a indicator again saying this was saved, kind of as a draft, if you will, or a pending upload. And then there's a green sash up in that right-hand corner that indicates that this still needs to be uploaded to the server. And then as I navigate back to the Contacts Object Home, what you'll see is that indicator shows, so if in case you change their name or maybe even the account, that way you can actually have a visual indicator that this is actually pending a sync to the server. Similarly, if I create a brand new contact, in this case, I'm someone, the predecessor, or the person that is going to replace his function as kind of RVP, and this is, say, somebody new that I met on site, I'm going to go ahead and start to try to assign to this user that same account. And so for anyone who's familiar with Salesforce1, what you know is we do that through what we call lookups, or lookup fields, or master detail fields. And the challenge with being offline and doing a lookup is you have no place to look up. And so what we do is we bring up the exact same experience you're used to, and you can type in exactly what you believe is the account. And we save that. You'll see the little kind of quotations in the search area there. And what we're doing is we're saving that, in essence, as lookup text. And we're going to match that once we come back online. And if we match it exactly 1-to-1, it goes through, no problem. And if we cannot, we actually ask the user to resolve that again. It's a very seamless flow, and I'll show you a little bit later. So again, I save this contact. And after I save this contact, what you'll see is it'll take you back to, well, once I do the title here, this will hopefully go fast. I'm a slow typer. And when after I save this specific contact, you're going to go back to the object home. And I want to stop here and just show you that the records created offline and our pending sync, This is kind of a new label that we put, and this is for newly created records. Obviously, we don't want to introduce them to the list because you may have server-side validation rules that require some of these not to show. So that's a way to indicate to our users. Lastly, as we keep going, you can see that if I go to stage left in just a second here, and I go down to that pending uploads area, you're going to see those records reflected right there within the list. Now, there's one thing that people always do, right? They always update their opportunities. And the question I always get is, well, what happens when I update something and somebody back at the office or another person updates that same record? Well, that's what I'm going to try to show you here. So really quickly, I'm just going to be in this opportunity. I'm going to update essentially the value or the amount of that opportunity because I just received a call from the customer. And so, of course, that's a draft. But now I'm going to go to those pending uploads, and I'm going to go back online. So you see everything, regardless of the types, everything's listed in that pending uploads area. I'm whether it's a contact or an opportunity, ignore that little thing. That's how we record the phone while doing this. But here, I'm going to go off airplane mode. When I go back online, what you're going to see is the phone connect, and then it's automatically going to sync this data. And what happens is if you have a syncing error, in this case, where you had a conflict where somebody else edited that same record before I came online, what happens is it shows you the value on the server and your value that you entered here offline. And this does it on a field-by-field basis. If somebody edited fields you didn't touch, everything magically works. But for things that were touched by both people, you simply make a choice. And because I just spoke with the account, I know exactly what the right value is. And I'm going to select the value that's right for me. And I'm really putting the control back in our user's hands. I'm going to save that record, and voila, opportunity saved, and we are done. And so I'm going to go ahead and switch back now to the slides. I want to talk quickly about the roadmap. So obviously, offline Readiness is available now. It has been for releases, but we know that offline is really about edit and create offline. So Android only is coming in the Spring 16 release. We originally intended it to be for both platforms, but for trust reasons, we wanted to make sure our iOS version was up to the latest and greatest Apple OS, which has some critical kind of trust issues resolved. And so that's why that is going to be delayed until summer. And then obviously in summer, you'll have iOS and Android, and likely the Windows platform will be available then at that point. And of course, quick actions will be supported, notes will be supported in that predictive sync. There's some gotchas here. I'm going to go quickly. Android only again. If you didn't hear me the 3 other times, Android only for the Spring 16 beta. Quick actions not supported, which I talked about. In some objects, if you are using Sales Path in Salesforce1 for opportunities, not supported. If you're using quick task creation, because quick actions are not supported, neither is that. Simply switch to full task create. It's a simple preference in setup, and you'll be ready to go. Notes, as I mentioned, profile, users, knowledge, and ideas. And all of these things are really things that we plan to get in the full version, just we couldn't do it yet. That being said, if you need anything more, if anything of your use case requires the word all my data, I need specific logic to run offline, I have to configure exactly what the data is offline, we really would recommend that you look at our mobile SDK. We handle a lot of these things automatically for you, and you really can just focus on your custom experience.
Can you repeat again the product roadmap for iOS and Windows for offline?
Sure. So iOS is going to come in summer 16, so that's June, and that is when we plan to release iOS. Again, this really wasn't a specific issue about the offline feature, but the iOS as a total in that Salesforce1 app, we really want to make sure that had critical trust kind of fixes within the latest 9.2 version of the Apple iOS operating system. And so that's why we're waiting on that. Windows is currently making great progress on it. We believe it's also going to be a summer 16 release. The entire app will be offline because it is a completely kind of, it's the entire app was done custom just for Windows. And so offline was the #1 requirement there as well.
Some questions about if they're using an iPad, they just use Salesforce1, and anything for Salesforce1 iOS is what they would be using for their iPad, correct?
That's correct. I think we have a longer term strategy around how we're going to support tablets. Obviously, we have an amazing Lightning experience. We're seeing a lot of people interested in running that on the tablet. The one thing to note is the underlying offline technology can actually eventually support the Lightning experience on a tablet and even on your laptop. And we're working towards that, but that's further roadmap items.
Oh, this is a really good question. Do you have to do your cache for offline before you lose connectivity?
Oh, great. Fantastic question. I'm actually really glad you asked that.
That's a really good question.
So our automatic download of your data, and essentially it's not just your data, it's your metadata and a lot of things that are really required because Salesforce has really been a platform of customization for our customers, right? And so we're going to attempt to download all of that in the background. So when you background the application, we actually kick that off and we try to run those operations. But I'll be honest, it is, some of our customers have very complex layouts, they have very complex customizations, and their metadata can be quite large. And just due to the nature of mobile, the way the actual operating systems work themselves, and they kind of watch applications that are running in the background, and if they're kind of taking too much because they're in the background, they kind of kill them in the background. And so my personal recommendation and what I think for anyone who offline is a critical need, go and press that button. It's easy, I promise. And it's only 2 taps, one from the menu and then one to get the cache going. And I would suggest that, especially if you know you're going to be going into a remote area.